So I saw this the other day where it turns out that New York City in the United States is the first US city to have a congestion charge, something that we've had here in the UK in London for over 20 years now, and it's something that's being rolled out in ever greater distance and kind of coverage across the UK. But this is the first time this has ever happened in the States, a country that is car mad, a country that is very much against public transport for the most part. I mean, the people aren't, but the people who make the decisions are. New York City being a bit of an exception, really, when it comes to that. They have a lot of public transport, and it is apparently not the worst, not the best. I don't hear amazing, glowing things about it, to be honest. But this has gone down about as well as a lead balloon, as you'd expect. But let's have a look at what's going on here, give my kind of take on it, because congestion charges and electric vehicles, it's something I spoke about a lot. It's something I've spoke about a lot here on this channel, and I actually did give a mention to this congestion charge in a conversation I had with my good friend Ed Bernardin a while ago. So we knew this was coming, but now we're getting some reaction to it from the people who live there. So let's have a look at what's going on. Shout out to the BBC for covering that. The first congestion charge scheme for vehicles in the US has come into effect in New York City. Car drivers will pay up to $9, around £7 per day, with varying rates for other vehicles. The system has been in operation since midnight on Sunday. Jano Lieber, the CEO for the Metropolitan Transit Authority MTA, told reporters. 400 lanes of traffic are now covered by more than 1,400 cameras, with more than 110 detection points and more than 800 signs, he said. President-elect Donald Trump is among those resisting the scheme, but Mr. Labour said that he was confident agreements with the government would stand up to the changes of administration. The congestion zone covers areas south of Central Park, taking in such well-known sites as the Empire State Building, Times Square, and the financial district around Wall Street. The scheme aims to ease New York City's notorious traffic problems and raise billions for the public transportation network. New York State Governor Kathy Hochul made the case for the congestion charge 2 years ago, but it was delayed and revised following complaints from some commuters and businesses. The plan to revives one scheme that she paused in June, saying that there was too many unintended consequences for New Yorkers. Most drivers will be charged $9 once per day to enter the congestion charge at peak hours, and $2.25 at other times. Small trucks and non-commuter buses will pay $14.40 to enter Manhattan at peak times, while larger trucks and tourist buses will pay $21.60. Hours after the scheme began, traffic was moving briskly along the northern edge of the congestion zone at 60th Street and 2nd Avenue, the Associated Press reports. Many motorists seemed unaware that they had the newly activated cameras set along the arm of a steel gantry above the street, and they would soon send a new charge to their Easy Passes, it says. I'm guessing that's their equivalent of the Oyster card that I think is still around in London. I think they're on about getting rid of it, but I think you can still use an Oyster card in London. It's basically just a pass to be able to use public transport. The charge has encountered plenty of opposition, though. Are you kidding me? New Jersey estate agent Chris Smith asked, speaking to AP. Whose idea was this? Kathy Hochul? She should be arrested for being ignorant. Seems like a reasonable man. The most high-profile opposition has come in the form of Trump, a native New Yorker who has vowed to kill the scheme when he returns to office this month. Local Republicans have already asked him to intervene. Congressman Mike Lawler, who represents a suburban district just north of New York City, asked Trump in November to commit ending this absurd congestion pricing cash grab once and for all. A judge denied an 11th hour effort on Friday by New Jersey state officials to block the scheme on grounds of its environmental impact on adjoining areas. I wonder what the environmental impact of a congestion charge would be. That's an interesting one. You think it'd help, but maybe not entirely. Need to see some evidence for that. Last year, New York City was named the world's most congested urban area for the second year in a row, according to INRX, a traffic data analysis firm. Vehicles in downtown Manhattan drove at speeds of 11 miles per hour during peak morning periods in the first quarter of last year, the report said. That's probably quick compared to London, to be honest, but maybe not. Among those welcoming the new scheme was Phil Bauer, a surgeon who lives in Midtown Manhattan. I think the idea would be good to try and minimise the amount of traffic down and try and promote people using public transportation, he told AP. Right, so let's just open this up. I'm not American, you guys know that. I'm from the UK. I've had limited experience when it comes to these congestion charges. I've not been to London that much. I never drove in London, so I never had to kind of navigate it like that. I hear mixed things when it comes to this. If the aim is genuinely to try and reduce the traffic in New York, the proof will have to be in the pudding when it comes to this, as long as it keeps on. If Trump does what he says and he gets rid of it, then we'll never know. Personally, I would be surprised if he does that, but then again, this is Donald Trump. He's not exactly predictable or level-headed, really, when it comes to a lot of his decision-making, and that also goes for a lot of people in his party too. But without getting into too much US politics, because I don't feel that's my place at the end of the day, and this is also the Motoring Chronicle, not the Political Chronicle, basically, I'll just use London as the example here, because I feel like that is the most comparable thing. London and New York, there's a lot of similarities there, especially when it comes to traffic and congestion charging now. London has had the congestion charge for just over 20 years. I think it came in 2003, and it's been through some changes in the last few years with the ultra-low emission zones and stuff like that. But when it was initially put in back in 2003, there were a lot of concerns. There were a lot of people complaining about it, saying that it's going to kill London. London's going to die because of this, and that didn't happen. London now is doing far better than what it was 20 years ago in some regards. In some regards, not, but that's a problem for the UK as a whole, really. But what happened was that the traffic numbers, the congestion did ease. It did help initially. But since then, it's gone back up to what it was before. London is still a very congested and polluted city. When I have been down there and I come back up north again, and I take that breath of fresh air when I get back up north again, it's like, whoa, wow, I've been breathing in a load of rubbish this whole time, while I've been down there. So, it's in the long term, it's not made a difference, really. I mean, there is an argument to say that if they didn't put it in, then the traffic would be even higher than what it is now. And possibly not. I don't know. In terms of the public transportation, if they use it in the right way, if they actually do fund it like they say they're going to fund it, then that's great. That can only be a good thing. Now, I don't know what the public transport in New York is like. I know it, in terms of ridership and stuff like that, it's the highest city in the US in terms of percentage of people that commute via public transport, whether it's a subway, bus, whatever, right? It's something like 60% of people in New York commute by public transport. Now, there is the whole argument that, well, they're basically charging us to use, to drive into the centre, and it shouldn't be like that. We should have the freedom to be able to do that. And that's a massive thing in America, good old freedom, of course. But, and I get that. I do get that. But you got to think about the damage that all them cars are doing to New York as a whole. And we'll have to see. If it works, it's great. And, the traffic numbers go down, the city gets less polluted, that's fantastic. But what they need to ensure, and again, without being someone who's, we've been someone who's never been to New York before, does New York have the capacity to be able to take on millions of more commuters via public transport rather than using the roads? And as someone who doesn't live there and never been there, I can't say. I would have to lean on someone who has been there or not. It's all well and good clearing the roads of cars, which is great. That's what you want. One bus can effectively take 20, 30 cars off the road. So in terms of traffic, it is far better. But you have to make sure you have the capacity and you have the resources to be able to take on those extra public transportation people, those commuters via public transport. And whether New York has got that, I don't know. Without doing extensive research on it and asking people on the ground, I don't know. But I would hazard a guess at saying it's going to be even more of a stretch, isn't it? Because, again, London is another example. The tube, the underground, the subway, whatever you want to call it, for, the New York equivalent, it's rammed. It's absolutely rammed all the time, even at like non-peak hours. So you're going to have to make sure you have enough trains and buses and everything else to be able to take that. And do they have that immediately? I don't know. Maybe you guys can tell me. But let us know your thoughts on it in the comments below, guys, because there are a lot of negatives here. And one thing I will touch on is that it does, in some sense, it does hurt local businesses if they're not able to invest in electric vehicles, for example. Or I don't even know if EVs are exempt from this, actually. The article didn't say. I would hazard a guess it probably no, because it's a congestion charge rather than an emissions charge, which is a different thing. So then you've got people, for example, having to pay $20 every time they bring their van in to restock their shelves in their shop, or anything like that, where they can't afford electric vehicles, or there's not the infrastructure there in New York. Because again, I don't know what the infrastructure's like in New York. I can imagine it's one of the best places to have an EV, but how good is it? If it's anything like the UK, probably not great, but we'll have to see. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and ring the bell as well here on the Motoring Chronicle to see much more content on the world of motoring just like this. Have a good one, guys. See you soon.